What's going on, friends? How are we doing tonight? Been a lot going on. I want to get back into the story of Beowulf, but I want to talk about some things going on in the world before we get into Beowulf. I don't want to brag on the Packers. I'm going to boast on God first, because he's the one that's worthy of any boast, and all of my boast, for real. But yeah, I think it's fitting, if I'm going to be doing a teaching on the Vikings and Viking culture, which, is kind of, I think, where my ancestry hails from, right? I think it's kind of fitting to kind of correlate it to what's going on in their season. And I'm not trying to, down the Viking fans. I think it's kind of funny. Pastor John Mitchum, one of my friends from Hastings, he posts on Facebook that he does, counseling for Viking fans or for people whose teams aren't doing so good. Well, right now, the Vikings are 0-3, and the Packers are 2-1. It's kind of fitting that they're starting off the season in kind of a down slump if we're going to be going through this story, because, life and leadership, right, and, heroism, right, usually arises out of times of chaos and when times are, tough, right? If you're going through tough times, people look for somebody that can get them out of that, somebody that can lead them through that, somebody that can overcome tough situations and, win. You know what I mean? I actually, once Favre was on the Vikings, I can't hate Brett Favre, dude. I watched that guy from when I was little, legitimately, when that Raiders game happened. And I was in 3rd grade, and dude's dad dies. And I think it's fitting too. We were talking about how to honor a man in his death, right? Well, think about this. Brett Favre, when his dad died, the night after, he goes out and plays against the Raiders, just balls out, throws 4 touchdowns, and he's like, I've played my whole career, and I've never been able to do what I just did. There's got to be a higher power or something going on. I think God really worked in that man's life, and later he became a Viking, right? So growing up as a Packer fan and loving football and just the friendship and the fellowship and the camaraderie and all the stories, I remember in recess walking out to recess. Some of y'all remember this. When Randy Moss beat the Packers in fake moondom at Lambeau, next day at recess, I'm in 3rd or 4th grade, 2003, 2004. And pretty much all my Viking fan buddies are lined up where we play football, and they're like, "Hey, Alex!" And they fake moon me just like Moss. So, great memories in football, a lot of love in football, a lot of love in sports. So, I know that the Bible's kind of really serious about, don't love the world or the things of the world, but God the Father loves people. And I think he's a joyful father. He's not some just strict tyrant, you know what I mean? I think he's, who knows, God himself knows what he wants his children doing. But I just enjoyed playing football growing up. I think God taught me a lot through it. And it's got my approval. And I think God taught me pretty good through that sport, and have a lot of wonderful memories with football. But yeah, when Favre became a Viking, right, I could not hate the guy. He's like my uncle, man. And so when he became a Viking in 2009, which I think was honestly, since 2009, other than the Minneapolis Miracle, I think that's the last season before 2009 where the Vikings really had a legit chance of they should win the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Where the hype is okay, yeah, here's football, but here's, Favre is on the team. We're about to go, pretty much all the way and win the championship. You know what I mean? And I do, hear me now. I know some of you, Garrett, Paige, or Rick, or my brothers, might not like me hearing this. I do want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before I die. That would be awesome. If that's in the Lord's plan, great. If it's not, oh well. But the reason I say that is, I think winning changes cultures, man. If you go up to Lambeau Field and you go check out Lambeau, that is a place where champions are made. You know what I mean? And champions are revealed. And it's a championship culture changes an atmosphere. And, yeah, Beowulf, right? And getting back into this story, right? Instead of just talking about football glory and football fame and fun, you know, like the Viking culture, right? Like in order to lead people out of a time of chaos and distress and just tough times, you have to be a strong-willed person. You have to be willing to do what other people are not willing to do in order to help deliver people from situations that they don't want to be put in or they don't want to be in general. So I have a correction to make too. So I reread through the genealogies, and there's two Beos, right? One Beowulf and one Beo. So Skilled, the man who, you know, the prologue of this book was talking about, had a son named Beo, but that was actually not Beowulf. It was Beo, his son. So it was a common name. Beo in the Norse language means bear, right? And Beowulf means bear wolf, right? Like the chiefs, you know, of the Viking culture, just like the Native American chiefs, right? They had names, and many of them were associated with like animals and like the animals that signified strength and power of their tribe. So yeah, I have a correction to make. It was not Beowulf whose dad passed away. Beowulf's dad was Herethel from the Geats. And the Danes, the Skildings, right? Skilled was the king that I was talking about, whose whose death was recorded by the original author of this story, right? His son Beo had a son named Healfdene, and you know, I want to get into the story and go little by little, not the whole thing, obviously. But yeah, hopefully it'll comfort you Viking fans out there and also teach you some things about God. And yeah, I think it's an awesome story. It's an epic saga. So here's the next section. Then was Beo of the Skildings a beloved king for a long time, in the town forts of the people, famed among the folk. His father had passed on, that king gone from his home, till to Beo was born Healfdene the High, who nobly ruled the Skildings as long as he lived. Old and battle fierce, to that wise ruler, the leader of warriors, children awoke into the world, 4 altogether. Heorogar, and Hrothgar, and Halga, the good. And I heard that was Onela's queen, dear bedfellow of Heo Skilfing King. Some of these names, it's difficult. I will try and get them right if I don't say them right as they are. Then was bold Hrothgar given battle success, honor in warfare, so his comrades in combat followed him eagerly, until the youths grew to a great warrior band. To his mind came a plan that he would order a hall to be built. They would raise on high a great mead hall, whose fame would forever be heard among men. There from within he would deal out, both to young and to old, all that God gave him, except common land and men's lifeblood. Then I have heard that many among nations throughout this middle earth, right? Tolkien played on that with his book. He called his whole world Middle Earth, right? But apparently in the Old Norse and the Old English, right, they used Middle Earth as a way to describe the country where they hailed from in the north. Throughout this Middle Earth, we mustered to work to adorn the high hall as a place for the people, as men reckon time. It was already with speed, the greatest of hall buildings. Hrothgar the king, who wielded power with words, named the hall Heorot. He fulfilled his pledge, dealt out precious rings, treasures at the feast. The great hall towered, high and horn-vaulted, yet awaiting hostile flames, a most hateful fire. For it would not be long till sword heat between son-in-law and father-in-law would waken their feud after deadly hatred. Then a fierce, evil demon suffered distress long in torment, who dwelt in darkness. For day after day he heard rejoicing loud in the hall. There was music of the harp, and clear song of the scop, who sang of creation, the beginnings of men far back in time. He proclaimed the Almighty created the earth, a land of beauty. Surrounded by seas, the triumphant one made the sun and the moon, and as lights to shine on all land dwellers, and clothed the corners of the world with limbs and leaves, and created life for every kind of the quick who stir with life. Thus did loyal men live their lives in joy, happy in the hall, till that one began to work his wickedness, a fiend from hell. Grendel was the name of that ghastly stranger, famed wanderer in wastelands, who held the moors, the fens, and fastnesses. Once this unhappy beast dwelt in the country of the monstrous creatures, after the Creator had condemned all those among Cain's kin. I'd like to stop here because it's interesting. Like, this story is describing things from the Bible, but it, is obviously not in the Bible. So, condemned among Cain's kin. So, in Genesis chapter 6, we're talking about like giants and how giants began in the earth. So when the B'nai Elohim, that's the Hebrew word for the sons of God, the angels of God, when God cast Satan and the third of the angels out of heaven, right after there was a war in heaven, they looked on the curious gaze of kings and all of the different tribes and peoples of the earth. And some of these angelic beings that went from being a holy angel to an evil angel, basically to a demon, from what's described in Genesis, actually were able to have sex with mortal women and create giants. So I know it's like, whoa, what are you talking about here? Like, yeah, like there are, in the Greek culture, it was called like demigods, like gods and men. Like they have in their culture descriptions of the gods sleeping with mortals and then having demigods like Hercules and Achilles, right? Well, the same thing happened in Noah's day, and that's actually where you get those legends and tales from. You'd have to read Genesis chapter 6. I think it's at the end of the chapter to get specifics. You can look it up for yourself if you want, but that's how I'm trying to describe this, right? Once this unhappy beast, dwelling in the country of monstrous creatures, after the Creator had condemned all those among Cain's kin, the eternal Lord avenged the crime of the one who killed Abel. For Cain got no joy from committing that wrong. But God banished him far away from mankind. From him all wicked offspring were born, giants and elves and evil demon creatures and gigantic monsters, those who fought God, time beyond time. But God repaid them. But God repaid them. So that's the first stanza of the poem, right? And it gets a little bit darker, obviously, because, like the Vikings record right now, not trying to be funny completely. Like, I do respect, the football team in Minnesota. I want them to win a Super Bowl. In my heart, love Brett Favre, love the Vikings, hope they do good. I see them as my brothers. I got 2 younger brothers, right? You got to mess with your little bro every once in a while. Otherwise, like, do you really love him? You know what I mean? Like, the way I see football, right? Like, the Packers got 4 Super Bowls. The Vikings have 0. I want to see my little brother get a Super Bowl. Like, that's how I see it, right? They're younger than us. The Packers are like one of the original OGs of the league. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I want to see little bro get a Super Bowl one day. I think that I could share in his joy. You know what I mean? So 1919, I think the Minnesota Vikings started like 1961 or something like that. So let's go. We gotta overcome this this evil, whatever it is. We gotta get back at it and start winning. We gotta be brave. You gotta find somebody who can actually conquer the giant. That's how I see it. So Favre was like that. Dude, I met this, oh my goodness, I gotta share this now. Hey, so I met this fella named Ken Kennedy down in Texas. My buddy Garrett's down there, right? And Texas people are funny. Like, I'm for real. Like, their accents, who they are, their personality, right? So I'm on a crew with Ken Kennedy building the canes in Lakeville, raising canes, which I had earlier today. I got this drink out here for when I get a little parched teaching. But so when I first met Ken Kennedy, imagine this guy with a beard down to his chest. He's got like a beaver hat from Wisconsin. It's like winter already, so it's super cold. And this is before I got my Lynx hat from the powwow at Shakopee. So I'm like, man, this guy's kind of interesting. Where's he from? What's his story? And he's from Texas, right? And I was telling him about football and Texas high school football. He was a quarterback. Lost, listen to this. He lost by throwing a pick in the state championship game in Texas. Like, man, that's got to be tough, like, to overcome that as a QB, right? We're both QBs, so it was like we became friends kind of like instantly. But we were talking about Favre, right? And, you know, he says in his southern accent, you know, they used to call him the Giant Slayer, you know, because he would be, you know, because he was talking about how he's from Mississippi State and, you know, he's like good old boy from Mississippi and, you know, small school D1. But it's like this dude who had such a strong arm, he's at this small school and he's taking on Alabama and beating Alabama with like some of his guts missing. It's like, yeah, they used to call him the Giant Slayer. And I was like, so why'd they call him that down south? Because he'd take on the big boys and win. And I'm like, dude, this guy is funny. Like, this guy, I could be friends with this guy. We had many good conversations. I hope Ken Kennedy is doing well. I hope to see him again someday. And I do think he's going to be in heaven with me because he believes in Jesus. But yeah, so yeah, you got to find a giant slayer like Ken Kennedy said. And yeah, well, you know, the Danes didn't have one of those apparently because here's what happened, right? When night grew dark, Grendel sought out the high hall to see how the ring Danes, after beer drinking, had settled to bed. He found within a noble warrior band, asleep after feasting. They knew not sorrow, the misery of men. The wicked creature, grim and greedy, was at the ready, savage and cruel, and seized in their rest 30 of the thanes. He then went from there, exulting in spoils, to seek his own home, to find his dwelling with his fill of slaughter. Then in the dawn, when the break of day, Grendel's war strength was made known to men. After the night's feasting, a lament now rose up, great cry in the morning. The glorious king, as always, a noble, sat full of sorrow. The great one grieving over his lost thanes. Soon after they saw foot tracks of their foe. The cursed stranger, that struggle had been too strong, too loathsome, and long-lasting. Nor was there respite, but after one night, Grendel once more committed yet more murderous slaughter. He mourned not for his horrid deeds. He was too bent on those. Dude, I think it's also interesting that the Vikings lost to the Giants last year. Does anybody else find that ironic or kind of funny? The Vikings lost in the playoffs to the Giants, and we're reading about this story. So hopefully I get some more Viking fans on this, so to speak, feed, and I can comfort you and encourage you. And yeah, if Kirk doesn't do it for you this year, hey, go tell what's his name I play quarterback. So I'd love to give it a try. I would love to throw to JJ. That would be so much fun, by the way. But, so yeah, going back, right? Back into the story. That struggle had been too strong, too loathsome, and long-lasting. Nor was there respite, but after one night, Grendel once more committed yet more murderous slaughter. He mourned not for his horrid deeds, he was too bent on those. Then was it easy to find one who elsewhere sought far away for his place of rest, his bed in an outbuilding, when danger became clear, as the truth was told by signs of the terror, the hatred of this hall stalker. Thus he held himself far off, and more safe by escaping the fiend. So Grendel held sway and fought against right, alone against all. So it was one giant, one remnant of apparently a wicked race of Cain. At a time, like I said, I think preceding the ending of the Roman Empire. Till the best of houses was left idle, a long time past, 12 winters all told. So this great house had been idle of great warriors for 12 winters. While the Lord of the Scyldings endured great grief, every kind of woe, a surging of sorrows. Thus to the nations, both far and wide, it became known through tales sadly sung, that Grendel fought a long while against Hrothgar, the king of the Danes, waged his terrors, wicked and fearsome. For many half years, in unending strife, he did not desire peace with any warrior of the Danish host, nor to lift the life threat in return for payment. None of the Scyldings could surely expect fair compensation from the killer's hands. But the horrid monster, a dark death shadow, harried the heroes, laid in wait to ambush both warriors and youths. He held through the night the moors, thick with mist. Now a moor was like a high mountain, right? There are mountains in Norway and Denmark, I think, not necessarily as big as like Colorado, but like the moors are like the lower parts of the mountains, places easy to be hidden if you're a giant, right? So he would hide in these moors, thick with mist, and men knew not where the hell demon would glide in his wanderings. Thus again and again this foe of mankind, this friendless horror, carried out a host of crimes, of hard humiliations. He held sway in Heorot, the brilliant hall in the black of night, yet could not come near the rich gift throne protected by God. I like that imagery. Even though God allows evil, right? Let me do a teaching on this. Even though God allows evil, he only allows it to a certain extent. He is still sovereign. God Almighty is still sovereign over evil. I believe that, man. Yet could not come near the rich gift throne protected by God, not knowing God's love. So God protects his people and his king's throne with love. Even though God allows some evil things to happen, right? There's questions that a lot of people could ask. Why does God allow rape? Why does God allow murder? Why does God allow Satan on this earth to tempt and test and, deceive billions of people? Well, in God's sovereignty, he knows the answer to it. If I can give you a brief answer, I would say this. I think God deemed it better to reveal his goodness through his allowance through evil. I mean, look at the cross. It's a wonderful image of God's love for us sinners in spite of our sin, right? So I think the reason God allows evil is for the greater revelation of his heroism. For real. So, yeah. That was much misery for the Lord of the Scyldings, near breaking of spirit. Many noble Danes, think about it, and like going to the king's heart, right? He had 30 thanes lost in a night, and then over 12 winters. Think about this. How many people do you think that giant could kill among a tribe, among a kingdom? over 12 winters. Probably a lot. He may have lost hundreds of people to this demon-like giant. That was much misery for the Lord of the Scyldings, near breaking of spirit. Many noble Danes sat often in council to consider what advice was best for the band of strong-hearted warriors to defend against sudden attacks and of terror. For a time they prayed in heathen temples, worshipping idols and pleading with words for the slayer of souls to come to their aid in the nation's crisis. Such then was their custom, the hope of heathens. In their hearts they bore hell. They knew not the Creator, the judge of all deeds, neither acknowledged the Lord, nor knew how to praise the protector of heaven, the ruler of glory. The ruler of glory. The young man's strength is his glory. That's from Proverbs. Woe be to the one who through terrible sin would shove his soul into the fire's embrace, foregoing all hope, with no chance of change. Happy the one who after his death day may seek the ruler for peace and protection in the Father's arms. Because of this horror, the son of Healfdene seethed with sorrow, nor might the wise hero put aside woe. That struggle was too strong, hateful and long-lasting, which had come on the people, dire wrack and ruin, the greatest of night evils. In his own homeland, the Thane Hygelac, the valiant Geat, heard the tales told of Grendel. This Geat was among men the greatest in strength, most noble and mighty, for as long as his life days were destined to last. Ward, right? Ward is the Norse word for destiny. We all have a destiny. Ward, right? Destined to last. He directed a wave traveler to be well prepared and said he would seek the Danish war king, that renowned ruler. I want some of this. Also, pause. If you've never had this amazing drink, it's called pomegranate lemonade tea. It is a glorious gift from above. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, you need to try some of this. It's so good. Yeah, the Danish war king, the renowned ruler. He directed a wave traveler to be well prepared and said he would seek the Danish war king, that renowned ruler, over the Swan Road, since the Dane was in need. The wise men of the Geats could find no fault with that journey. Though their hero to them was dear, they inspected the omens and urged on the brave one, this excellent chieftain, who had chosen as comrades the best and the bravest from among the Geats that he might find. With these 14, he sought the sea planks, a skillful sailor, leading the way down to the end of the land. The time was ready, with the ship on the waves, the boat beneath cliffs. Well-equipped, young warriors stepped up on the prow. I love that image. I have 2 books upstairs with Viking ships. And just imagine, like, I'm a football player, right? And some of y'all have never been in pads, right? Never been in pads, in the sense of, like, football, bro. So when you put on a helmet and you're about ready to go play some football, you feel like you're going to war, right? I imagine when these dudes stepped on that ship, it's like, we're about ready to go to war. You know what I mean? Like that feeling, that adrenaline, that like, we got to go do this. We got to go take this on. You know what I mean? Like that feeling of like, let's go get this, That's what these Vikings were feeling when they got on them ships. Time was ready. The ship on the waves, the boat beneath cliffs, well-equipped young warriors stepped up on the prow. Sea currents wound round, sea against sand. Then the warriors bore into the ship's bosom the shining war gear, their splendid arms, The men shoved off the well-bound vessel for the much-sought voyage. The foamy-necked boat, most like a bird, soared over the waves, and made eager by wind until due time. The following day, the tightly wound prow had traveled so far that the seafarers now sighted the land. Shining shore cliffs and towering banks, the broad headlands. The boat crossed the waters to the end of the sea. Then swiftly they rose, men of the Weders, mounted up on the shore, made fast the wood vessel, and shook their mail shirts, their armor for war. Then they thanked God that the path through the waves was easily passed. High on the cliff the Danes' coast guard watched, charged with protecting the borders by the sea. As he saw strangers bear bright shields from their ship, armor ready for use, curiosity pressed into his thoughts, as he wondered just what these strange men were. He went right to the shore, riding on his horse, right? This thane of Hrothgar, and shook the great spear he had in his hand, while with formal words he asked, "What bold men are you, thus bearing your arms, protected by mail, who have made such a journey in a tall ship traversing the sea road, to come here over the waves? Hear me." May have said this from a long way off. I need to breathe. Like, you can only read so much without just feeling like you just gotta take some breath, huh? All right. Chill out, right? I have long been coast guard of the coast, held watch by the sea, so that no hateful enemy might launch an attack with the ship army in the land of the Scyldings. Never have shield bearers come to these shores more openly than you, nor could you be sure of words of welcome from our war leaders. So even among these clans, right, the Danes and the Geats, there was kind of like I wouldn't say it's an alliance, right? If you got dudes from across the sea with war gear and you got dudes from across the sea with war gear, like, yeah, you hope that there's peace that, passes between them, but like, it was a watchful peace. Like, hey, you got your gear, like, you kill us with that, like, and we got our gear, we can kill you with it. We're gonna be friends, brothers, we need help, so interesting how you your first words of relating with your kinsmen from across the sea, you choose those wisely. That's what I would think. Hear me. I have long been guard of the coast, held watch by the sea, so no hateful enemy might launch an attack with a ship army in the land of the Scyldings. Never have shield bearers come to these shores more openly than you. Nor could you be sure of words of welcome from our war leaders, consent from our kinsmen. Never have I seen a greater earl on the earth than one of you. I think this is Beowulf, where the hero is revealed. Never have I seen, imagine seeing the most mighty warrior, the most mighty man, right, that your eyes have ever beheld, right? It's kind of how I see Beowulf, right? And I'm kind of hoping to be like that one day. Got to train a lot more than I have been. I mean, I'm doing a lot. Only 175 or something like that, but 10 years from now, I could see myself being 190. That'd be fun. Right? Okay, so this guy, he sees this great warrior, right? And it is obviously he's the greatest earl on the earth. Never have I seen a greater earl on the earth than one of you, a man in his war gear. He is no hall retainer, ennobled with weapons, unless his looks belie him, given his peerless form. Now, I must press you to know your lineage, lest you venture forth any further from here, as enemy spies into the land of the Danes. Now, you far dwellers, you seafaring men, who have come as strangers, hear my plain thought. Haste would be best for you to make known your home, and your nation. It's already been, what, 35 minutes? Goodness. I know. Do you have the attention span of a 5th grader, or do you have the attention span of an adult? Yeah, I like this stuff. I could read this all night. If you guys don't want to hear it, you don't have to. I mean, just how it is. So I'm going to keep having fun reading this and teaching about it. So hopefully I'll go till the 5th stanza, right? Because I think I would like to leave off, obviously not just like super sad. I'd like to probably get to where they meet the king, where Beowulf meets the king of the Danes, because it ends with hope. I like ending with hope. That's usually a better place to settle than just sitting in your sorrows, you know what I mean? So, the chief among those seamen made answer. The war band leader unlocked his word hoard. We have come from the country of the Geats, and our hearth companions of High Gaelic. My father was well known among the nations, a noble chieftain, Ecgtheow by name. He weathered many winters till he passed away, an old man from his homeland. Every one of the wise throughout the wide earth remembers him well. In friendly spirit, we have come here to seek your own high ruler, the son of Healfdene, protector of his people. May you give us good counsel. We have come on a quest to that famous one, the king of the Danes. Nothing will be concealed, held back when we meet. Now you must know, if it has been told truly, as we have heard, that a foe of the Scyldings, of what sort I know not, a mysterious hate dealer with terror displays unthinkable evil during dark nights, humiliation and slaughter. So for this, I seek to counsel Hrothgar in heartfelt friendship, how the wise and good king may overcome the fiend, this foe, right? Another word for enemy. If ever relief should come to reverse the terrible affliction of all these evils, and his surges of sorrow then become cooler, or else ever after he will suffer distress, a terrible fate, while towering on high, the best of halls will remain without joy. The guardian spoke, seated on horseback, a fearless captain. A shrewd shield warrior must judge the meanings of each of two things, of words and of works. So what does that mean? That's a wise saying. A shrewd shield warrior must judge the meanings of each of two things, what a man says and what a man does. What a man says and what a man does. If he thinks clearly, I hear and judge that this is a force friendly to the Lord of the Scyldings. You have my leave to go forth bearing weapons. I will guide you. And I shall bid my band of young thanes to guard with honors against all enemies your sea-going vessel. The new tarred ship there on the sand, until once again it bears its noble seafarer over streams of the deep, in the wound wood prow to the land of the wetters. I love the poetry, right? I love the words. The wound wood prow to the land of the wetters. I love poetry. A good people, as it may be granted by fate that through the battle storm he may safely pass. With him they went forth, their vessel stayed, the broad-bosomed ship at rest on its ropes, held fast by an anchor. Images of boars shone over helmet cheek guards, glowing with gold. Man, like, when I look at this and, like, how they describe ancient armor, right? Like, I think about, like, the most epic jerseys, right? Like, that you could ever dress up in for football, right? Like Notre Dame's golden helmets. Like, for real. Like, I don't know if anybody else is a Notre Dame football fan. You know, I have probably a little bit of Irish ancestry, mostly German, right? German, English, Irish, maybe a very small part Native American from like an East Coast tribe. But, right, the Fighting Irish's helmets are like, they're awesome. Like, for real. Like, if you see that dude running for a touchdown with a gold helmet, like, that's awesome. And so, yeah, like, I just like the imagery of, like, warriors, like, looking at, like, what they may have looked like. It's amazing. Images of boar shone over helmet cheek guards, glowing with gold, flashing in fire hard. The war-minded boar watched over life for the grim ones, serious ones. The men made haste, marching together till they might see the timbered hall. And I love that my dad's farm's got, you know, timber frame. It's kind of fitting. I'm not saying that this is like, I mean, it's kind of like, well, I'm not saying it's exactly like, you know, an ancient Norse hall, but with the old timber, this house is like from like the 19th century when the pioneers settled here. Yeah, it kind of has that same feel to it. The war-minded boar watched over life for the grim ones. The men made haste, marching together till they might see the timbered hall, grand and gold adorned, right? Like, imagine timbers with gold all around. It'd be awesome. The greatest of buildings among earth dwellers, of all under heaven. That hall housed the mighty king, its light shining far over many lands. The battle-brave coast guard pointed out to them the splendid hall, so they might themselves go directly there. Then this Danish warrior turned round his steed and spoke these words: "The time has come for me to go. May the Almighty Father favor you with help and grant to you a safe venture. I return to the sea to hold my watch against hostile foes." And then this is 5, so we're at 42 minutes and 34 seconds. So, yeah, we'll end after stanza 5 tonight, Lord willing. So the guard of, I think it was the king of the Danes, the guard of the king of the Danes, lets these 14 glorious warriors pass through the land with their war gear and up to the mighty hall of the glorious king. And he gives them, he you know, sends them off with well favor from the Almighty Father, God, the Creator. The way was cobbled, and it guided the men marching together. Cobbled, so cobbled stone. I'm a landscaper, right? Love landscaping. Love making things look beautiful, right? I'm imagining, though this man's kingdom was once very glorious after the terror of Grendel, there was a lot more darkness and grimness in the land. But yes, the way was cobbled, and it guided the men marching together. The war mail shone, the bright iron rings linked hard by hand, so the battle gear sang. Thus they proceeded in their awesome arms to go to the hall. The sea-weary men sat down their broad shields. Man, I want to buy one of these too one day. A shield. A lion head shield, but we'll see when I get that. The sea-weary men sat down their broad shields with the powerful bosses by the side of the hall. As the men sat on a bench, the mail rang out. The battle shirts of heroes. The mail of a mighty man, right? Like, apparently would sing. What's the sound of might. Their spears stood tall, the weapons of warriors all gathered together. A grove of ash woods gray at their tips, that company of iron was honored with weapons. Then a proud Dane questioned these warriors about their origin. From what place do you bear these gold-plated shields, these gray shirts of mail and sheltering helmets, this stock of battle shafts? I am Hrothgar's herald and attendant. Never have I seen so many foreign men, more brave in their bearing. I think you seek Hrothgar, not in haughty pride, nor as exiles without homes, but for greatness of heart. The one famed for strength, proud chief of the Weders, answered that attendant, or the attendant, speaking formal words with force from his helmet. We are Hargelic's drinking bowl champions. Beowulf is my name. I wish to speak to the son of Healfdene, the renowned king, your own great ruler. The reason I snarl, right? Like, hey, pride comes before the fall. And whether a man is proud or humble, it matters, right? To be humble is a good virtue. To be proud is not. And so, even heroes can have, think about it, even heroes can have their flaws. So what kind of hero do you want to be? That's what I ask. What hero do I want to be? I want to be a humble hero. So even though Beowulf is a hero in the story, pride comes before the fall. And if you continue with this story, you'll see what happens. It doesn't end bad, from my understanding, but you'll hear. Hopefully. Beowulf is my name. I wish to speak to the son of Healfdene, the renowned king, your own great ruler, about my goal in coming, if you will grant that we may meet with such a gracious lord. Then spoke Hrothgar's herald, Wulfgar, the Wendel, whose honor was known among many men, with his valor and his wisdom. Wisdom, we know, comes from the fear of the Lord, God. I will go in to the king to discuss with the friend and the lord of the Danes, the lord of the Scyldings, giver of great rings, regarding your venture as you request. And his reply I will make known right away, whatever he wishes to give you an answer. The herald went quickly to where Hrothgar sat, old and most hoary, right, like white-haired, but still apparently a mighty-looking king. Among his band of earls, that one famed for courage stood before the shoulders of the Danish lord. He knew well the custom of the court. Wulfgar spoke to his well-loved leader. To us from afar over the sea's expanse, men have come from the homeland of the Geats. The warriors called their chief comrade in arms, Beowulf by name. They bid that you may grant, my generous lord, that with you they may have concourse with words. Do not refuse this request. And the answer you give, gracious Hrothgar, dressed in their war gear, they appear worthy of the honor of earls. Their chief is specially strong, who led these warriors to our land. Their chief is specially strong. So yeah, then chapter 6 is where I think they have words with the king, or chapter 7. So yeah, but like I said, we'll end there for the night, God willing. So yeah, that is the setup for the rest of the story of the tale of Beowulf. And hope you enjoyed hearing me read a little bit more, and I don't know what you got planned for the week. I know for me, I've got work in the morning, making some outdoor furniture at By the Yard. So hope y'all have a good week. Peace, blessings. Like I said, stay mighty. I'm not even like the strongest dude, but I love might, love strength, love glory, love God. And yeah, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get stronger. Just got to keep the faith, keep focused, stay humble, right? Stay humble. I was actually thinking about this at the gym, potentially preparing to do, we'll see if God wants me to do it or not. Whatever you do, you can do it all for the glory of God. And yeah, there's like a natural bodybuilding competition. It's called the Natural Viking. Might be doing that on next Saturday, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm not trying to tempt anybody or make anybody stumble or anything like that. It's just, you know, I think that with what God has given you, if you have a servant's heart in doing what you do, you can help set people free. And that's what a true leader does. He helps set people who are in bondage free. And, you know, that's kind of how I see the story of Beowulf. That's how I see especially the story of Jesus Christ. And, yeah, for freedom, Christ has set us free. And he went through a lot to set us free. And I hope you learn more about that through the story of Beowulf and through our friendship. So, peace. Have a great week. And, yeah, got some stories on these rings, too. So, I got all three of these from a different place. The Spartan helmet, I got that at the Mall of America. Great purchase. Great lady, too. She was super nice, even though she was, you know, not the same faith as me. She was a Muslim. I got the chief ring at the Native American powwow 2 years ago now. And, yeah, I respect the people that came before me, right? The people that were in this land prior to white pioneer settlers, the Germans, the, you know, the Swedish, the Norwegian, right? They had a good way of life, and they knew the Creator. Maybe not by name through Jesus Christ, but they knew the Great Spirit. You know, they called him Wakan Tanka, and, or Mede Wakan, or Wakan, meaning like the Great Spirit, right? And many Native Americans just say the Creator, right? But I respect that image, for sure. And then, you know, obviously, if any of you know about the story of St. Patrick, he was a slave, right, to Irish chiefs who were pagan at the time. And he watched their sheep for them. And then, you know, he was a slave from his boyhood to however long. And then my brother Nathaniel actually just went over to Ireland on vacation. And he told me if you can look super, super closely, you can see potentially that there's a circle. Does that zoom in? There's a circle in the middle of the cross, and apparently, I learned this from Nathaniel, St. Patrick put that circle in there because the chiefs of Ireland, they saw that the sun was sacred, that it was something that the Creator gave to, you know, represent him and give life, right? And so St. Patrick, when he shared the gospel of Jesus Christ, that Jesus is Lord, Jesus is the Son of God, that he came in the flesh, died for our sins, was buried, and rose from the dead, and all who believe in him, right, confess him as Lord, right, will be saved, right? He put the sun in the middle of the cross because it had divine and spiritual connection to them. He saw it, I think, as something that was true about what God showed them in their culture and connected it to what was true for sure of what God revealed through his baby boy. Jesus in saving the world from their sins. So, yeah, that's a story on the three rings. And, yeah, like I said, have a good evening. Oh, 54 minutes. Look at that. If you, if y'all can have attention for 54 minutes, kudos to you. Like, thanks for letting me teach. Thanks for letting me share what God put on my heart to share. And, hope you found some joy in it. I found some sort of understanding. If you have any questions about anything that like I'm sharing or talking about, feel free to message me, comment, whatever you want. Feel free. I hope you have a wonderful week. Peace.